Here we go. So we are going to be doing a done with you workshop today. Everybody got the workbook either in a PDF form or a doc form, and you're welcome to have printed it out or work in a separate screen. Today, I will also be working along. I'm super excited to have Mike Neffel with us here today. Again, I'm Day and Nave. I'll introduce myself a little bit more in a minute, but as far as what is this group, so a lot of this came out of Lawyers Happy Hour and Lawyers Mastermind, which are meetup groups that are based in DC, but we definitely have people from all over the world join us. It is sponsored by my company, The Success Partner, and we have also, Mike here guest lecturing for us. This is normally a $300 workshop, but Mike has co-sponsored this workshop by providing it for us at no charge. So again, it's me. I've been a business owner, so I'm very entrenched in the small business world. I've been my own business owner since 2003. I grew up in small business as well. So literally my parents ran the construction company right out of the house. And I kind of grew up in entrepreneurship and didn't ever think about anything else. I did manage a small firm, which is what got me into the idea of becoming a law firm co-pilot that I've been doing for the last almost 7 years. And I am certified in life leadership, business, and conflict coaching. And I am a member of the bar. So still there, still a member of the club here, and not giving that up. It was way too hard. It was way too hard to get. So Mike, I'll let you introduce yourself.
Good morning, everyone. My background, I'll start with that, is in advertising. I worked at a global advertising company for years, and in the early 90s, broke off on my own and started my own marketing consulting company. By circumstance, what have you, my first 5 clients were law firms. And it was just interesting because I was talking to a lawyer in helping me set up the LLC and what have you. And what occurred to me, my eyes kind of opened up, is like, okay, because in advertising, we have what's called conflict of interest. Well, I would have one estate planning lawyer referring me to another estate planning lawyer. I said, well, you guys do the same thing. And the answer was, yeah, but, and there were differences. So I did that. I have, throughout the years, actually most recently, worked with some of the legal industry networks, law firm networks, and have presented to lawyers from around the world. As I mentioned, my advertising background, some of the clients were Chiquita, Vlasic Little, some of these names you'll recognize. That is the approach that I took in developing this brand building workbook process. It's the same steps, same process that we would use working with a, if you will, a packaged good company, and separating yourself from the pack. And these are some very competitive industries, especially when you get into, for example, Chiquita. That's as commodity as it gets. But how do you distinguish? How do you separate? And that's part of what we're going to do today, is walk through and help you separate yourself from the herd. And so that's the background here.
Wonderful. All right, well, we'll just jump in, and it's, again, since it is an intimate group today, we can ask questions as we go along and really get that juicy information from Mike's experience. All right, and so I will kick it off. So branding, we can't really think about branding yet until we figure out what the vision is for the firm or the practice, and like why we do what we do in our practice. So even if we are working in a firm and they are assigning us some work, we still have a passion or a vision of like, hey, where do we want this to go? What do my ideal clients look like? Who do I want to be attracting? Where do I want to see myself going? So a vision actually creates an image of how you want your practice to be and how you want to show up in prospective clients' minds. So like there's a firm that I know, I can't remember if they're in Tennessee or Texas, but anyway, Horses and Divorces is part of her brand. So she does equine law and specifics around that, and as well as family law. And so that's clear to who she brings in. So we're looking for people who are, horse people there in a country or an area of the country that's very heavy in that area, and makes for a very specific niche. And then what do you want your firm to be known for 5 or 10 years from now? And on the personal side, like, what do you want your practice to be known for? You know, are you a biochemical patent attorney? Like, is that your thing? Did you come out of that world and that's who you want to serve and you want to work for? I'm going to go with XYZ company because I don't know right off the top of my head who does that line of work in a niche practice. But like, is that the person you want to serve? Is that the type of company or the brand that you want to identify with as you are building your career and your practice? So these are the topics that you want to look at. So we always want to go back to our core values and beliefs. So this is what keeps us motivated. This is what gets us up in the morning. This is what drives our firm. And a lot of attorneys, we have problems with time management, and a lot of this comes back to not lining up something with our core values and beliefs before we say yes to it. Okay, we've got a couple more people coming in. So really, when you're offered something, once you have a brand, once you have a vision, when something comes in the side door, you can line it up with this core beliefs and values and say, okay, this is a tangent. You know, this is something that we could do if we had some time. We could refer it to someone else and then kind of just check in from a relationship standpoint if it's out of our core values and beliefs. One of the key reasons that we get burnt out at work, it's not just the hours and the stress, it's also taking work and doing work that doesn't line up with these values and beliefs. And then of course we need a demand for our product and service. So what needs or gaps do I want to address in the market? So if you have a product or service, but it's already being met by a competitor, someone's been in the market longer, you're going to want to find what is the in between part, like where are the areas I can find service in this. Do I need to change regions? Some people do change regions. I know it's difficult to change states, but not impossible. I have multiple state bars. I know a lot of people who do, to go somewhere where they have a demand for your type of work product. And that can be done with a greater market analysis. That's things like my company, The Success Partner. That's one of the things we do, is dig into market analysis as well, so that we make sure that you're doing the right type of work where it can be profitable for you, as well as keep you sustained. So also we're going to be thinking about what makes my firm or practice unique. Mike is going to go way down the rabbit hole in this. So just piquing your interest right now to open the mind, get the juices flowing around that. Also, the ideal client is very important. You want to know exactly, I serve XYZ. You know, I serve this portion of the population. I serve this type of corporate client. I serve government contractors, or I serve men seeking custody of their children. Like, who do I serve? Again, that growth plan, looking for 5 to 10 years out. A lot of times we're very stuck working in our business, in our practice. We're getting work if we're in a firm, we're getting work from the partners. We're trying to keep our head down and get our billables in. If we're running our own shop, similar, we've got to keep the lights on. We have staff to pay, but really peaking up at least once a year, but I prefer to work quarterly with my people and really do a 10,000 foot view. And then as we're working on stuff, of course, we meet very frequently to get things done. How is there an impact? So an impact of my firm and my community. So we stand as lawyers very, as a cog, as a very important cog in a larger ecosystem. So what we do affects like our clients, our people, if they're family law clients, it's like they're better members of the community if we're handling their divorce or adoption or whatever better. They don't have to worry about it, and they can continue to be part of the community, doing their civic service, doing what they need to do while we're handling their legal needs. Looking at trends. So we've had a lot come out technology-wise. Technology is a huge industry, and we've seen it ripple over the last few years. Like we had some tech layoffs, and then that rippled down to a lot of the larger law firms doing some structural changes. Had a lot of lawyers on the job market for the first time in several years. Also, those people were then also allowed to start their own businesses. So a lot of people that left tech started their own business, and a lot of people that left law started their own businesses. So these trends, if you're looking forward, want to look at like what's going to affect my practice. If you're in a firm and you're in an area that's very specific, is that area of law going to stay relevant for the long term? Do we need to cross train or expand? And then how do I measure success? So we always have numbers and cents, but it's going to look different for each and every one of us. So some of my small firms, they don't want to like grow in a huge number or footprint, but they'd like to maybe work a little bit less. The leaders would like to go ahead and do some more stuff with their kids or grandkids, but have the firm still growing and generating the revenue that they want. Other people want huge firms. They want to get big enough to acquire other firms. And this is just different. I mean, there's not a right or wrong or a benchmark for you that's like a benchmark for anyone else. Okay, Mike, I'm turning it over to you.
Okay, thank you. And yeah, the vision is very important before getting into brands, just to have an overall, and I think like Dea mentioned, it is that 30,000 foot above look. Now let's shift into the brand. And this is a word we all hear every day. A lot of times, brand this, brand that, and the definitions range anywhere from, people say, oh, the Nike swoosh is the brand. I said, well, yeah, kind of, but it's really everything that stands for. One of the best examples of a brand that is sometimes misinterpreted is a car dealership is always associated with a brand of car. General Motors, Chevrolet, Honda, whatever. Well, they're franchises, but they have to uphold all the standards of their brand. So what is a brand? Personal brand definition: the psychological and rational attributes that make you unique and preferred in the minds of your target consumers. There's a couple of key elements to this that I just want to point out briefly. Psychological and rational. Rationally, you can distinguish yourself in the type of law you do in some of your experiences. You watch the TV commercials for the lawyers that are just posting gigantic dollar numbers. Those are rational. We've achieved this, we've achieved that. Psychologically, prospective clients and lawyers can really distinguish themselves by capturing people's, and I use the word emotions, because two of the big words in terms of clients who they hire and who they keep: trust and confidence. And these are both based on, at least partially, on psychological attachments. I trust this person. I have confidence in this person. And then there's all kinds of reasons why. But that's the psychological element. And there's some other things that come into it. I'm a big fan. I think the psychological aspect is where you can really separate yourself from the herd, as well as a few success stories to reinforce the rational reasons why people should hire you. And the second item that I would really like to point out is attributes that make you unique and preferred. We all know attorneys that are unique, but not exactly preferred for many reasons. We've got them in my market and everywhere, but unique and preferred. And when I say preferred, that is what's going to get you on the short list when a case comes up, and whoever does the hiring, we'll get into that in a second, you want to be on their list. Okay, let's see, can this person hire? Can this person do the work? It's either they've done work like this for us before and they did a good job, or, hey, I've heard, because many times referrals from other attorneys or CPAs are good referrals for attorney. I've heard they can handle it. Let's contact them, bring them in, see what they can do. So that is the personal definition of brand: the psychological and rational attributes that make you unique and preferred in the minds of your target consumers. Final words in there: target consumer, very important. Know who you're going after, define it. It's part of that is your visioning statements. Otherwise, the analogy I use is what we want to do is we want to be a bit of a river with banks that keep the water flowing all in one direction. We don't want to turn into a gigantic lake where the water just goes everywhere all around and pointlessly hits the shores. You want to keep going in the same direction. And that's your target consumer, knowing them, understanding what they want, and then focusing your message to what they want. And that's a key element of branding as well, because there's so many things. Someone says, well, what are you good at? And an answer, everything. Well, okay, what do you mean everything? Well, and I'm sure you are good at everything. You know your way around a courtroom. You know, the judges know you. It's not a problem. You know the law. This, that, but what does your client want? And we're going to get into an example in a second here. One of the clients I worked with was, he wanted entrepreneurs. He wanted what's called second stage businesses. And that's a business, been in business for a little while, ready to invest money and really grow to the next step. Well, entrepreneurs have a distinguishing mindset. So the entrepreneur really wasn't interested in all these background cases that he's handled. He's like, look, okay, that's all good, but entrepreneurs don't spend a lot of time looking in the rearview mirror. They're looking ahead. And this guy, this attorney told me one time, he said, I've come to realize when an entrepreneur gets something in his head, it's going to happen. My job is to make it happen the proper way, keep him protected. And if there is just no way to do this, then it's my job to tell him you can't, that we have to look at it. So understanding your client and really defining who that client is. Yeah, that's the personal brand. And as well, please chip in. This is a working discussion. Any questions for that specific to your practice or the things that you do, feel free to raise your hand or chat right in. Okay.
All right, thanks, Mike. Just let me know. I'm gonna go ahead and switch slides, but let me know if I get behind and you're like, hey, switch the slide.
Okay, that'll be, how about that? There we go.
All right, here we go. Looks like we're diving in.
Yes, let's get busy here. Building a personal brand requires thoughtful self-reflection and strategic planning. Yeah, we could sit around and have a coffee and talk about it, but there is some research involved. And sometimes the research is really just sitting down thinking, okay, I know my clients, this is what they want. So some of the things that we definitely need to consider, keeping in mind your niche and service that's uniquely you. Here are 10 things that need to be considered. What are my core values and how do they influence my practice? That gets back into what Dea was talking about in the visioning. And that's very important, because if you're trying to be something or somebody you're not, it's not going to work. I've seen it happen. I've seen attorneys go buy the best suits, go down into, they want to get into the best crowds, this and that, when their real passion and things like that is rolling up their sleeves and working with construction companies, dealing with government contracts. And that market is a golf shirt, Docker, boat shoes, for lack of a better profile. You show up in a finely tailored suit, in their minds immediately is, oh my God, what does this guy charge? And that's just how it is. So what are your core values? Who are you going at? How do they influence my practice? What are my unique strengths and expertise? And this is extremely important. Strengths being, everyone talks about being customer service oriented. If it's on your website, that's fine. Because it's almost like you have to say it because everyone else is. I use the analogy of back when I'm old enough to have come through a generation that actually read newspapers and it was delivered on your doorstep. And Monday morning, if you're a tire replacement company and you're not in that Monday sports section, you're just not doing business. Some of the strengths and expertise, customer service oriented, yeah, a lot of those things. However, going beyond that, what are your unique strengths and expertise? This is where, and I'm a big fan of what's called success stories, to demonstrate because a lot of people say, well, I can do this and this and this. Well, good. Give me an example. Success stories are huge, and they don't always have to be associated with a win. And I'll give you an example of that. I worked with a corporate transactional attorney, and he had helped, one of his clients was being sued for something, and the opposing team was asking for like $1 million. He got the case settled for about $100,000. His client was ecstatic because his client knew that if this thing goes to trial, there's anytime you go, there's a chance that $1 million verdict could come. Well, that's a bit of a success. And I asked him, I said, how did you, just give me some bullet points, write up, what'd you do? Because obviously that a lot of times lawyers, they brag about being creative thinkers, and that's good. Well, here truly was a guy that dug in, found out how do we get this thing, really inspected the complaint being filed, and was able to knock down 90% of what was asked for. That's a success. Now, obviously, a win is a much more powerful success, but please don't rule out things that you either did creatively thought your way through or use the law in a very different way. As I tell people, you can tell people, it's look, I know how to handle cases that do not have we've done this before precedent, and you know how to work that way.
Ernest, do you have a question? Sorry, we have Ernest chimed in. He raised his
Yes,
hand.
yeah, I'm not sure whether you want us to ask questions as we go along or wait till the end. My question is, if you've got reported cases, but not all of them were successful, on the one hand, the fact that it got reported is an indication of the strength of your argument. On the other hand, you weren't successful in that particular reported case. What is your view on that as far as using that as a success story?
I think that's a good question, because you want to sort them out. Not everyone is going to be able to be used as a success story, but there will be one or two where this is where what could have happened because of the work I did. This is what did happen. The outcome, looking at the outcome, what worst case, what could have, and Ernest, that's what you want to do, is find one or two or three. And those are types of things, as I tell people, even if you can post one every 2 months or every quarter and just write a paragraph, keep it short about the process you used. Here's what I was presented with. My client was anxious and nervous, spent many hours on the phone, and this was something that could have really impacted their business. And in the end, this is what happened. So it's been reported. So yes, there was an outcome there, but try and get sort them out and use the ones that there was that as an attorney, you took an approach that the outcome was much better than it could have been. And really focus on defining the strategy, what you looked at. Maybe there's something that you zeroed in on that whoever filed the claim didn't realize that could really impact the case as much as it did. And, in the end, you were able to promote that. That's the type of thing, Ernest, that they're not all going to be used, but I'm pretty confident there were some where the strategy that was taken resulted in less suffering, less pain, and the bottom line, less out of pocket money in the verdict or judgment, what have you. Is that kind of where you were trying to get it?
Yes, that's helpful.
Yeah, it is. And the way there's attorneys in Las Vegas that deal with insurance they defend insurance companies for fraud, this and that, and man, they are constantly battling. And the success stories that they use are, here's what came up, here's what we did, here's what came up, here's what we did, here's what come up, here's what we did. Their whole thought is, and I agree with this, is number one, out of sight, out of mind. So keep this stuff flowing, keep it short, because when people are looking for attorneys to handle cases, with all the access they have now to information, boy, they want someone who's handled exactly what I'm facing right now. It's not so much as say, I want an estate planning attorney that handles large family wealth. Now they want to know, not only do I want an estate planning attorney with large family wealth, I want an estate planning attorney that handles someone who owns 100 franchises of McDonald's, or not someone who has one or two, businesses. That they define wealth as huge. So, and again, this is more of an example of how you work, what you work, and some of the things you've achieved. And not all cases will work, but there will be some. So, moving on, number 3, who is my target audience? And again, this is extremely important to identify who the audience is. Now, the audience could be a geographic area, it could be a category of businesses, it could be a certain social status. Yeah, I know some attorneys in the estate planning realm that want to deal with middle-class families, that they just know what's coming, they know what needs to be in place, and they also know that in their minds, these are people that talk to other people and refer, and that's how they build. So who is my target audience? Very important to get that as finely tuned as we can, because then we can get into their minds and identify what I call the consumer mindset of your target audience, and really focus in to help channel all the good things you do, sort them out, pick them out to the 2 or 3 or 4 powerful attributes that are going to separate you in their minds as preferred and unique. How do I want to be perceived by clients, peers, and the public? Those are statements. Start out with a short paragraph, and we're going to whittle it down to a sentence. As I tell people, it's something. Think of, if you're shouting something from a mountain, you really can't shout long things from mountains. So we're going to keep it short, and that's it. Number 6, what platform should I use to build and promote my brand? Part of that circles back to who's your target audience. I mean, there are a few that are just a given. I'm going to tell you right now, you need to be on LinkedIn. The social media are very powerful. With LinkedIn being right now really emerging as the leader. A lot of state bars have their own version of a LinkedIn. I think in Michigan it's called ZeekBeak, and there's some other place you want to get into the state bar, your local county bar, city bar, and really use those platforms the best you can. We're going to talk a little bit about, I come from the world of advertising. In the Detroit market, there's the most listened to radio station for the AM drive. Every January, they offer one heck of a deal on radio spots for the morning drive. And I investigated that, and a few of my attorney clients, I said, look, you can't lose. You're going to get one spot a day on the morning drive by the most listened to morning DJ person. And they said, well, there's a reason why it's on sale. I said, well, no, the reason it's on sale is because other companies' budgets are not kicking in until February, March, April. January is just a light month, and they're putting it on sale. So, and it does, it works. And there is a bit of an awareness there. They say, well, how much can I promote in 60 seconds? I said, you can promote your name. We're going to get to your name 3 or 4 times in there, what have you. So those are some of the things you want to look at, as well as the platforms. Sometimes people forget about speaking engagements. Speaking engagements are big, especially when after the engagement, you'll receive a list of who was at your speaking engagement with an email. Follow up just with a nice short, thank you for coming. Just want to let you know, here are all the things that I work on, and maybe a quick success story. How can I consistently communicate my brand message? Very important to be consistent in the things you do, in not only the look and feel, and that's what, getting back to the attorney I know that actually is doing quite well in the construction business. But he knows that he is not the type to be polished up. He's a golf shirt, Dockers, boat shoes kind of guy. His website looks like that. His web page, he works at a bigger firm, but his page, the words in the paragraphs is very common language. Doesn't get into too many Latin words. Just that's important to a lot of people, is to speak. I mean, for lack of a better term, speak plain English. Other companies want you to go and talk to highbrow, but consistently communicate your brand across all the platforms you're on. How will I handle challenges and setbacks publicly? That's huge. My personal opinion is, and I had a older business, very successful business, pardon my French, but stand up, take your butt whooping like a man, and move on. If you've got challenges and setbacks, and then it's in the rearview mirror. Learn from it. Obviously, never forget what happened. Make sure that you get things in place so it doesn't happen again. And that could be as simple as power going out for a weekend when nobody knows it, and you don't have your generator hooked up to keep things in order. Kind of a funny story. I don't know if it's. I was working with a intellectual patent IP firm, and I get a phone call on Sunday morning. Somebody had hacked into their website and changed all the links to porn sites. And yeah, I get a call from the managing partner, Mike, we need to take this down. I said, what happened? And so while we're on the phone, I go into my little office, I get on a computer. I said, oh my God. And then the managing partner says, well, hang on, because they were pretty heavily involved in the auto business. And if you know anything about the auto business in Detroit, it's still predominantly men. And he says, well, maybe we should, wait till Monday to fix. I said, no, we're fixing this right now. Because he's thinking, well, if a guy comes here, they maybe, who knows? Maybe, but I said, no. Unfortunately, but how do you handle challenges and setbacks? And I told him, I said, look, if you want to do anything here, it gives you an opportunity to send out a very quick little note, either mail it or email it. Hey, we apologize to anybody. This happened. We fixed it as fast as it was brought to our attention. And nothing was compromised. Nothing was stolen, this and that. And just get that fixed. And again, move on. That's how to handle challenges, learn from it. And which, interesting enough, I had been suggesting to this law firm that they bring in a cybersecurity company, even at the lowest level, put some defenses beyond your McAfee and Norton basic packages. And they did. And a big part of that is being notified if something does happen. As I've had IT people tell me, boy, this stuff is always evolving. But what you want to do is you want to be notified. If something happens, then you can get your IT person to get in there and fix it up. Am I open to feedback and adaptation? I'm just going to say the answer to this is yes. To be successful, you have to be. Keep an open mind. Even if you're the entrepreneurial person, a lot of things that you see, because life just keeps moving forward, business moves forward, technology moves forward, at least look at things quickly. And sometimes you can, in 30 seconds, decide, does this apply, does it not? And other times you may have a good look and say, well, what is this? Let's have a look. But that is a very important thing, as well as looking at your consumer mindset, which is in the competitive field of advertising or of law. There are constantly people out there joining network groups, telling stories, trying to convince people why they should bring their business over to them. It's a very competitive field. And to separate yourself from the herd, keeping an eye on the feedback and adaptation in the consumer's mind. What's different? Number 10, how do I ensure my brand aligns with my personal life? This again is pretty important because you don't want to get burned out. If you get burned out, it's just no good for anything. Your business suffers, you suffer. You have to align things. And if that means getting in a routine where, I know an attorney that took his garage and made it into a workout place, and now actually him and his kids enjoy it. But he gets up at 5, gets his workout in, gets to work, does his thing. That's what he does. And to him, it's very important. When he has to travel, he actually gets anxious and things because he's out of his routine. It doesn't align with his personal life. And he just enjoys it. Plus, he gets time to spend with his kids in this little workout area. So, and that's just a little thing, but keeping your personal life is very important to being successful in the business as a lawyer. So that's it, Dan.
That's great. I love how you tie that in, the vision and mission, of course, and like keeping us in our, I think you said the banks of the river. That is so much more powerful than leaking out all over the place.
It is, and the vision is, you might as well call it Vision River, because you want, the water can hit the banks, but you want it flowing in the right direction versus a lake. And I forget, I was at a seminar one time and somebody used this, I never forgot it because it makes sense, versus a lake where that water just goes all over, uncontrolled. All of it's good. Water is a good thing, but you want it flowing in one direction. And that ties back to the vision, which provides that direction. The components of a brand: visibility, reputation, relevance. I'm just going to quickly say visibility, bottom line is out of sight, out of mind. You got to get on your platforms. You have to post. I'm guilty of it. I don't post as much as I should, especially when I'm getting a project done or I'm busy, and I don't know why, but maybe there's just a little room for improvement in a mental mindset. It's 9:30. I deserve a break, whatever. I have a dog, and I just love to go around the block with my dog, and it really helps me get my mind off of things, this and that. So, 9:30. Well, I got 9:30 at night is not that late. Another 15 minutes and I could have something posted. And again, here I am talking about it doesn't have to be the biggest win in the world. It just needs to be something to demonstrate how you think, how you work, what do you do. So visibility is key. Sure, if you have the time and the resources to get into the videos, the YouTube posting, that's better. But there is a baseline that I'm going to tell you, you got to be known. And a lot of that, the big reason for that is in marketing, we have what's called the power of 3 and the magic of 7. The power of 3 says people need to hear your name 3 times, a brand name, company name, person's name, 3 times before they even know you exist on this earth. And that's the reason why a lot of times in commercials and radio, they say the phone number 3 times. They say the person's name, maybe once at the beginning and twice at the end, but they repeat it 3 times. People need to hear or see your name 3 times. People need to hear or see your name 7 times on average before they consider you as a viable alternative for whatever they're looking for. They got to see that. So 3 times, wait, okay, there's something that is real. 7 times, but I know them for some reason. They know them because of the messages you've been sending them, and they've been processing in the cognitive storage areas. And then you get on their short list. assuming that the unique attributes that you're telling them is worth what you're worth looking at. So visibility is very important. Reputation, another very important thing. And all in all, this really points to do what you can to keep a good reputation. Don't jump off a cliff. If someone posts a bad review of you on Google, you can't get rid of it. All you can do is push it down. It just doesn't happen. And also, if somebody posts a bad reputation, kind of look at it for a second and go, is that really bad? And I'll give you an example. I worked with a real estate attorney, and he was handling a case for a landlord. Well, it ended up in they met with the opposing counsel and their client. And then the opposing counsel's client posted a review on Google about my client that said, worst attorney ever, didn't listen to anything I said, just kept interrupting, blah, blah, blah. And so my client said, oh, Matt, I don't know about that. I said, what are you talking about? I said, in your business, there's going to be some people that appreciate that. He wanted to push it down onto Google. I said, you might just leave it there for a minute. And he did, and he got no negative. So sometimes a reputation, think about what is it people expect from you. Again, your target audience mindset. And if they're looking for someone who is going to really advocate for them and jump in and silence people and say, wait, no, here's really what happened. Leave it there. And the final one of the components is, and getting back to the reputation, you can create that perception in target consumers' minds with the attributes that you focus in on and just keep putting them out there. That your reputation will become real in people's minds. I know that a lot of people call it the perceived image, that it's what it is. It's what they, before they even meet you, they have an idea of who it is, what you do, and what you stand for. And that's reputation, very important. Relevance, that is just being up to date, and it can range from having the ability to handle billing electronically to quickly running conflict checks if you work at a firm and things like that. One of the firms I work with, really, they sling the term around, a heavy investment in technology. Last year, they got new phones. That was a heavy investment. But people think of them, wow, they're up to date on technology. They don't say what it was. They just say we maintain a heavy investment. Relevance is also being up to date on the current trends in whatever practice or what have you that you're really is specific to your situation. And I actually lost a client one time. He worked for a county school board, and once a month he would just send them a note and go have lunch and talk about what's coming, what, maybe a Supreme Court decision is going to eventually impact our school system, maybe a local law or something. Well, they were so impressed, they hired him, and he fired me. I was happy for him. And we still keep in touch, and he's a great referral source. But he was relevant, very relevant. He would go and meet and say, look, this is what's coming. And I also know attorneys who are cautious of doing that because they say, well, a ruling happened, we don't know what's going to happen. And I'm like, don't tell anyone that you don't know what's going to happen. A ruling comes down, there's an opinion attached to it. Most of them are based on, historically, when this opinion happens, this is what we have to keep an eye on. And again, your client does visioning as well as you do. The client should be looking 4 or 5 years down the road. They will appreciate you coming in and saying, this, just put this on your radar. We're going to monitor it, so you don't have to look at it every day, every week, but just want to let you know that's relevance.
Yeah, that's great. I want to chime in on that, Mike, if I can.
Yeah.
So sending out like white papers and things like that is very helpful to your clients, and then your client avatar, the targeted market, the ideal client. when something comes like that, it's just it's an FYI. So it's like not an advertisement. It's not an opinion. It's just say, hey, this is something you should know about. And then it comes up, you start coming up as like, oh, you're a trusted resource. XYZ law firm or lawyer is a trusted resource. It's like, this doesn't affect us directly. However, I see that they're up to date on these things. And it's sort of a low key flex, like they like to say. You're not putting on you're not necessarily putting on a webinar or getting up on stage, because that's just not what some people are ever going to do. But to develop those little white papers can be very helpful for your consistency.
It is. And this is, again, something a lot of people talk about and they brag about. We're up to date, blah, blah, blah. They don't all walk the walk. They don't all have the little white papers, the little things. I know in Michigan, the estate planning laws change every year. Something, either the wealth, the high end estate plan, or the low end, or if you have kids going to college, when they turn 21 or 22, something changes. And I know attorneys that gain clients just by firing out little 2-3 paragraph. A lot of it is this AI using. It's there. These
I was
guys.
gonna say that's the easiest way to do a summary, and then go back and look, make sure it's got what it needs, and just do a few little bullet points. And changes in the law are great, easy, low hanging fruit to to get back out there.
To get back out there, and again, insight in mind. That is very true. So the that's the that as far as a budget, what should you spend? Rule of thumb for a solo practice or small firm or medium firm, to that extent 3 to 5% of gross. That's a rule of thumb. A new practice, up to 10%. These are averages that I'm familiar with. I bring this over from the advertising industry, and I did do a little bit of research on this, that it really is across the board for businesses in general, as well, and that includes law firms. That's what you want to budget for your marketing. What you put in that budget, I know some small firms that they're big on speaking engagements, and they fly to New York for conventions, Chicago for conventions. They'll put that in their marketing budget, the speaking engagements and all the expenses. Other ones don't. They keep that as a separate personal selling budget, however you want to work it. But 3 to 5%, that can go toward anything from your pens, your mouse pads, your calendars, your holiday cards that are coming up and you send out, to maybe you want to put a radio ad or a ad in a very specific issue of the State Bar or the local business magazine. That's just, it kind of gives you an idea, because sometimes people say, well, what should I spend? I said, well, this is a ballpark thing to look at. So there you go. All right, I think we're ready now to really dive in. And this is why we're here, the Branding Blueprint Workshop for Lawyers. A 5-step process: profile, reach, connect, engage, convert. This is something, again, this is based on, this is exact. I was telling Dave, when I started advertising, I had the good fortune. My very first boss came from Procter & Gamble, and he was in Procter & Gamble's marketing department in the 1970s. If you're familiar with that era in Procter & Gamble, is known for branding. They really established a lot of processes and techniques and tactics. So I learned a lot from him, and that carried through. And that's some of the thinking that we're bringing into the process of helping you become a well-defined brand. The steps, just quickly going to go through profile. This is about you. Type of cases, target markets, your practice, competitor practices, and the consumers. Very important. This is really a flow in. This where visioning meets branding. A lot of this stuff is defined in your vision, but we're going to get more detail, get into the more details for a specific moment today. Visioning, you want to look down the road from a big picture. Here we're dealing with what are you doing today? What are you doing this year, this month? Reach, we're going to define your unique selling points. We talked about the budget, message delivery, materials needed, campaign launch plans. As we go through, you saw the workbook, we're writing things down. If it's not written, it's not a plan. We're going to write things down. Even, I mean, maybe some lines you may have to think about a little bit, but write in within the next week or 10 days, fill in the plan, connect. People you need to connect with, current connections, industry, business associations. You guys all know people, you all know associations that you should be contacting. For a lot of reasons, sometimes people don't feel good about sending notes to somebody. You got to let them know what you're doing, out of sight, out of mind. We're going to write down some names and put things in. Engage. Here you're going to answer the question or make the statement, you should hire me to handle your legal work because we're actually going to fill in the blanks. Everybody's unique. This is not a one size fits all answer. And again, what is in the attributes that make you preferred and unique? Convert, ask for the work, close the deal. What I will say on the convert side is when someone looks at you and says, what do you need to get going? Boy, part of what they're looking for is the speed you react to that. I'm gonna, okay, this afternoon, give me your email. That's all I need. I'm gonna send you the forms. You fill them out. We run you through our system or we make a conflict check real quick and within a day. If you know it's something that's gonna happen, just be frank with them. I need $1,000 retainer. And off we go. Know what it is you need and don't be afraid to ask for it to close the deal. Yeah, whatever it is. Many times when I witness attorneys who maybe, I'll be standing there and say, well, what do you need to get going? I like everything you do. You've handled exactly what I'm looking to have done. Okay, I'm gonna have my associate get back to you. Good luck. That your chances of scoring that business, it didn't go away, but it went way down. They're dealing with you. And it's a very simple thing. Tell them exactly. So those are the 5 steps. So let's get into the profile. Okay. Types of cases. Get your pencils out, get your pens out. Types of cases you would like more of. If you're having trouble thinking, just kind of off to the side on your doodle pad, write out the characteristics of the clients you truly enjoy working with. If you have a company you work with, think of the people. This is somewhat very tangible examples, elder law, probate litigation, estate planning, families, mergers, acquisitions, I apologize. Types of cases. You list 2, and the reason that I like to keep it to 2 is as we get into consumer mindset, most of the time the consumer mindset will be similar because people, they really only want one type of case, but there might be another, like probate and estate planning hand in hand, but slightly different, or elder law and probate litigation, slightly different consumer mindsets. Your experience with these cases, that is just a quick note. I have years of experience, have been second chair at some extremely important court cases. If there's something noteworthy that you can write for the type of cases you want, this is where you want to jot it down. And part of it is just so you don't forget. You write it down, it's there, and then when you go back to looking at some of the messages that we're going to be writing, Any questions here? No? Right, right. Markets that present opportunity for the types of cases you want and your experience in these markets. Here, some of the examples are, now you're looking at consumer groups. Who are the target markets that in your mind present the greatest opportunity to hand you cases that you like? Examples: venture capitalists. Other lawyers are a very good untapped resource that I think sometimes attorneys don't look at as, well, boy, I can really target them. Second stage companies could be a target market. Again, the entrepreneurs who built a company are ready to move on, invest money to grow. And when it comes to investing money, there's all kinds of things that come into play. CPA associations, the Michigan CPA Association of Michigan. I know attorneys that go and present to their annual conference. They always get one or two cases. Construction companies work with government contracts, not just construction companies. You really want to, anyway, this is just an example of how getting is niche oriented as you can. Not only construction companies, but I want the ones that deal with government contracts, because getting those contracts, you need an attorney to help fill out those paperwork. Many of it is very technical. So here, write down your target markets, your experience with these markets. Been working with them for years. Got my foot in the door with a few of them, but my expertise just really lines up. This is my wheelhouse. Target market contacts. Who are the decision makers? And this is something that you really need to think about, because many times you can give your sales pitch or your elevator pitch, whatever, or your consumer value proposition, and and you're thinking the owner, well, the owner makes a decision. Well, maybe the owner doesn't. The CLO, the general counsel, do they rely on the general manager who is day-to-day deep in the trenches? Because any attorney that comes in, they're going to want them to work with the general manager. The purchasing department. Probably about 10 years ago, oh my, you thought you were going to see attorneys jumping off the Golden Gate Bridge. Detroit, the auto companies started sending bundles of legal work through the purchasing department and putting them out for RFPs, requests for proposals. And it was generally some of the, maybe they're going to make some changes to their employee handbook. Maybe they're going to do something, and they just want opinions, reviews. Well, they're sending out, packages that when they get to the law firm, they're going to be sent down to the newest associate so fast. And the clients knew that. So they're like, okay, here's 10 projects. How much you paying? And some of the more seasoned attorneys' noses were getting a bit out of joint, because these are the kind of things that were handed off on golf courses. It's like, hey, I'm gonna call you tomorrow. I got some things that need to be done. Well, now it's not. It's going through purchasing, and purchasing runs it through a very rational checklist and they award things. They go back to the CLO and in their weekly meetings say, okay, this stuff's going to this firm, and the CLO is okay, good, yeah, because it's all important, but it's not as important as some of the bigger cases. Referral sources and gatekeepers. So anyway, decision makers, very important to know who is it that is going to make the final decision. And just write down your target market, the cases you want, who's handing over that contract. Referral sources and gatekeepers. This target market key contact, this gets into more of the broader areas that you can, as I say, scattershot broadcast. You're still going down your river and very focused, but other lawyers, Chamber of Commerce, I don't think Chamber of Commerce do a very good job of promoting what they do, but some of them are pretty darn good at getting the word out in their communities. Network groups, key. Boy, if there is a way to identify in your practice area If it's, and again, I keep going back to the estate planning, but in the Detroit market, there's a mother's group that I know, an estate planning attorney that just literally makes a pretty good living off getting into these mothers groups. And they could be, a lot of high schools have mother groups. But, and they get in there and say, and it's all, they think about this, they think about that, you didn't even know, something happens. And you don't have the proper paperwork. So the network groups are very important. Having all those things in order, now we're going to get into, again, still in the profiling stage, which is the first step, your unique selling point. Following pages, we're going to identify the intersection of what you do well and what your target wants. We're going to look closely at the emotional benefits, as these will make you the winner. Rationally, boy, you're competing on a lot of tactical scientific data. You're a lawyer, you know the law. Yes. Emotionally is where you're going to capture the heart of your prospective client. And the words trust and confidence come into play huge. So what you want to do is really understand what your target consumer wants and what you do well. And we're going to walk through some steps that are going to help you begin to understand that, because that's the intersection that's going to win you the business. What your competitors do well and what you do well, okay, well, that's competitive, and your consumer, now you have alternatives and they're going to definitely look, but this is where we want to identify your unique proposition. Your profile. Some more fill in the blanks. And this is very key. Some of these you can fill in today. Some you may have to do a little research, or have a cup of coffee and think about them. Number of partners, associates, even if success stories, you can just jot down cases. I want to look at this case. I want to think about this case. Here's a case that I need to take a look and jot down, boy, because I think, the client was really happy. I was disappointed we didn't win, but client was really happy. And then of course, on the flip side, man, we won and they appealed and we won there too. And this is something that summary of recent work. What types of cases have you been working on? And here, the reason we're doing this is to make sure it aligns with your target consumer from one of the previous pages. Are you missing anything with your recent work? Then we're going to get into, what do your clients think of you? And don't hold back. Have you heard whispering? Have they quit shaking your hand at the end of a meeting? Little indication. I mean, I've seen it. And then somebody will walk out and they'll go, they don't have long, they're not going to be around here much more. But what do your clients think of you? And then what do you want your clients to think of you? Maybe, and this is something that when you go the solo practitioners and small law firms, sometimes they're hesitant. How do we handle the word boutique? We're a boutique law firm. I'm a boutique lawyer, which can be a positive, because if you spin boutique to, I am the specialist for this topic that you want, it's a good thing, right? If you're doing other things, I can handle them. I can also refer you to some people who are really good at that. But if you're looking to have this done, I'm your attorney. What do you want clients to think of you? Many times it's, I want them to think I have more experience than I think they think I have. Very true. And that's going to be a situation for your entire career. And that's where the little success story blurbs, just keep firing them out. but what do you want them to think of you? Obviously that I'm the best, but you're the best for what? What words describe your current brand? Are there 3 or 4 words? Professional experience prior to law. I'm going to use examples from the IP world. Many of the IP attorneys worked as engineers at manufacturing companies. IP attorneys came through Nassau, and they worked in designing things. They're engineers, and so many of the other professional experience prior to law. Dana, you mentioned you were in the construction business just by where you were. That's an experience. I'm sure just by listening and learning and hearing things, you could probably talk a pretty good game to a owner of a construction company. Brownfield credits and things I don't really understand totally, but or knowing how to get a permit zoned, changed, whatever. Professional experience. Do you have any other licenses? Are you a CPA, a real estate agent, certified something? Any other licenses that you have? How often do you publish or post? Currently, not what you would like to do. Just honestly, if you don't, then just pray. I don't. If you publish or post once a month, once a week, whatever it is, put your point in time. What do you think your hourly rates are compared with the competition? This could be an above or below 5% high, 5% low, or it could be a dollar amount. The same. I'm $20 an hour less in the ballpark, but let's try and quantify where are the hourly rates. If you're the same, or if you keep pace with the market, that can be that's an answer as well. And the reason is because as much as you're going to get your emotional and psychological attributes into the client's mind, you can't forget about price. And they are going to want to know that you're in the ballpark for some of the other attorneys that they're considering or have worked in, unless it is a make or break, bet the business case where price doesn't make. And I use the example of the city of Detroit 10 years ago, when it was bankrupt, and they brought in Jones Day. They didn't even ask the price. I mean, Jones Day came in, got them out, got them in a process, did it. Those cases don't come along every day. They trust you, they like you. Okay, we're going to close the deal here. Just let's make sure your rates are in line, and off we go. What do you do better than others? Top of mind, without thinking too much about it. Do you return phone calls? What I call the 24-hour rule. Which is very important, getting back to somebody. Do you keep the client informed as a matter is being handled? Do you have weekly meetings? Does your phone ring and you look at it and you answer, or maybe not? What do you do better than others? Do you win more cases? That could be. On average, I win more. There's a law firm here in my market that's promoting themselves as all we do is win. I don't know how they got around the law on that brag, because that's a boast I would think another lawyer could challenge so fast, but all we do is win. What do others do better than you? 2 or 3 things. What do they do better? Are they better marketers? Are they better communicators? Do they post more? Is their name out there more? Do you hear their name more? That can be something they do better than you. It doesn't have to be with the law. it can be with the branding.
That's true, Mike, and that's a good thing to learn. We can learn from our competitors or friend
Sure.
competitors or whatever, definitely. And I love you bringing up like checking with the bar. Each state is different on their rules on that, how to use winning terminology or how you present yourself. So definitely check on that. And then I love like the uniqueness. There are certain things that people just inherently do better, and like leaning into that and really upping the ante on your uniqueness can really set you apart.
Uniqueness, yes. And actually, I think here's where I want to bring in, I've shared these stories with Dea before. I worked with an attorney who was a flight commander in the first Desert Storm. I call it the first one because anyway, he's in the Air Force. Now he's an IP attorney doing very well, but he's a flight commander. And as he said, he led squadrons of planes and they dropped bombs on the bad guys. And he had won, he got selected as a super lawyer, and here in the Detroit market, they have the big super lawyer dinner or what have you. Well, he was nervous as much as upstanding. I mean, you talk about an officer and a gentleman, this guy was just very good. But he was nervous. He didn't want to say the wrong thing. He's never been in a situation where people are going to say, what do you do? Blah, blah, blah. I told him, I said, Eric, talk about your time in the Air Force and how you drop bombs on the bad guys. Partially because the attorneys that were going to this event, very patriotic, and they want to hear these stories. And a lot of them had served in the military. He looks at me and says, what are you talking about? I said, Eric, number one, I guarantee you're the only one that has ever been a flight commander in that room and can speak firsthand about bombing. I see after the event, I said, how'd it go? He goes, oh my God. He goes, that's all anybody want to talk about. And he actually had lined after that event, two of the other attorneys he met says, let's have lunch. I want to find out more about what you do. And before becoming he was in the Air Force where he actually carried a toolbox, fixed his own planes, but then he worked for NASA a little bit and they became an IP. He lined up what ended up being very profitable associations. People say, let's meet for lunch. I want to find out more about what you do because of the human interest story of, all right, this is a guy, I can't think of anything I would trust more than someone who went through that process. I have confidence if this guy knows how to really zero in on that. So sometimes it's the human interests that make you very unique and what people attach to your brand, in addition to your great law work, your great cases, what have you. Another attorney I worked with, I remember 1980, the Miracle on Ice hockey team. And this attorney was actually played hockey at Michigan State University, was selected to try out for the team. He was the last person cut from that team. But he knew all the players, he knew the coach, he still gets Christmas cards from the coach, what have you. And a similar thing, he got selected for an award and he goes, man, I just don't do these that often. I don't want to do the wrong thing or mess up, whatever. And I said, Carrie, talk about your hockey. Everybody in Detroit, big hockey town, and they know hockey. And I said, just anybody says, well, what's your background? I said, forget about where you went to law school. Talk about what it was like trying out for that team that eventually they made movies about. They beat the Russians, first time ever. And I saw him shortly after that, and he had a big smile. He goes, oh my God. He goes, I didn't realize how interested people are in hockey. And as I was talking to him, I said, yeah, they're interested in hockey, but here you are basically attached to a legend. You were so close. You went through the whole process, and that was a human interest. At the end of the day, it's people hiring people. Yes, they want to know you know what you're doing. They want to know your background. They want to be attached to certain law schools, have great brand names that come with them. But anything you can do to elevate your brand and be memorable is a good thing. Now we're going to get into the competitors. Competitor one. A lot of it's going to be the same types of attributes that we talked about, number of partners, what's their reputation, just off the top of your head? What's the 2 or 3 words that describe them? Their primary practice areas, marketing tactics. How do they describe their brand? How do you describe what they claim to do better than others? What you do better than them, and where, if you think they're vulnerable, where do you think it might be? I mean, could it be they just lost a big client, or they missed the filing deadline, and even though nobody really talks about it, you know about it, and that's just a indication of sloppy work. Get this one done, and then we'll do the same thing for another competitor. This is the form where fill in what you can. There may be a few things you later on today or within the next couple of days, you want to go just take a look at their website, because you're going to be able to identify a lot of these things by looking at their website. It's all there. Their claims, what you do better than them. Any questions so far, what we're doing here? Not yet? Okay.
Yeah, this is going well, and I think it's very easy to do some market research. These days, everybody has a online footprint, but even local offices. I got a Yellow Pages the other day. I didn't even know that they still sent out physical copies of the Yellow Pages. And of course, the first section I flipped to is the local attorneys, and there are still print ads for attorneys in the Yellow Pages, which was very interesting.
Yeah. If you look at 2 competitors, here is an example of one of the attorneys I worked with actually made this chart up. I worked with him, and this is what I do when he looked at 3 competitors. These are firms, medium-sized firms in the Detroit market. His firm, the number of lawyers, he's in estate planning and probate, so he wanted to know how many people are in that. Description, again, you go to the website, click on About Us, you could just pull a nice description off. And we also went to his as if he's a competitor, so he could really compare across. Marketing tagline, the first law firm, boy, we couldn't figure out what they were, really short and concise, telling anybody. Difference isn't in the law, it's in the people. Going the extra mile for our clients, plans that inspire. These are all taglines that they use. You inspect these websites, you can pick up who their clients are just by the types of things they talk about: parents, business owners, professionals, family-owned businesses, things. One of the law firms actually did post their rates. It's interesting. I don't really, as far as I'm concerned, put it out there. But certainly say rates as of December 2023 or whatever. But give someone, and they got ranges, as you can see. So obviously the client, the people I know that are hiring attorneys say, for example, well, I want the associate that only gets paid 175. Well, yeah, I know, but they can't handle, so you're going to get a different associate. But here again, everything looks good. They just want to make sure your prices are in the ballpark. I think these prices are in the ballpark. It's very competitive, so they put them out there. Other attorneys, they don't want to put them out there because they want to be flexible enough to where we can, because a lot of it's based on anticipated hours and what have you. And then you have your origination, your production, your management fee credits, and that's a whole nother set of boxing gloves that goes on behind closed doors. But the research tactics. This guy put out, what the other competition's doing, what he's doing at social media. And again, at the time, one of the things that actually the client was on, his law school has a blog. He is a University of Michigan Law School grad, and they have a blog that's open to any alumni. If you're in the Alumni Association, you can post, and he does. And so again, that's another platform that is very useful. Just real quick on another one, on one of his associates, she went to Michigan State University Law School, and I was working with her, and I said, well, and she's a big golfer, and she says, well, I don't know, I should go back to my alumni golf outing. And she's looking at it just as a boondoggle. And of course, everyone at the firm is like, well, if you're not here, what are you billing? Blah, blah, blah. She'd been to the golf outings, and she always got 2 or 3 cases by the people she reconnected with, hadn't seen in years. They were doing different types of law. They forgot that she was doing this type of law. 2 or 3 cases come in. It is, and I think I don't know, it costs a couple $100. She made that the first case that came in the door. So sometimes things like that. But anyway, here's just an example of a chart that will help you really sort out the competition and where you stand. And we used to do these all the times. Again, this is the same process when I worked for the big package companies. We would line them up and look at who's doing what.
That's great, Mike, because you can sometimes get in somewhere that somebody's not. So if you found like one of those niche associations and they're like, hey, they don't have a lawyer already in there doing the sponsorship for this organization or the annual meeting, then you can slide in there and you've got a captive audience. So Benita, you have some comments and questions?
I do, which is why I decided to finally put the camera on. Hello. I have a question. So
Yes.
What I've noticed time and time again is rates for services are rarely ever advertised on anyone's website. So how do you research your competitors' rates and make sure that your own rates are competitive?
Well, a lot of it is word of mouth. You talk to other attorneys, or if you talk to some of your clients, and maybe not your clients, but former clients, whatever, and say, this is in the back of my mind. We always want to be competitive. What's the range? I would never suggest asking for specific, but what kind of ranges are you guys looking at, or do you see for partners? They'll give you a range. What type of range? And again, this is going to help me set our rates. What are you getting from small, either from solos or from small firms? Kind of put it that way. Then what if I recall what this Kemp Klein did in the About Us section, which you probably wouldn't think I'm going to go there and see what kind of rates. Way in the bottom, they said, oh yeah, and by the way, we believe we're competitive with the market, and here's what we're currently charging. And that's how they did it. Which I guess what they're doing is anticipating and answering a question that they know is going to come. It's going to come. Either what do you think it's going to cost? I mean, unless you're with one of those, we don't get paid unless you win. Okay, whatever. But most of the time, it is a budget question that, what's your guess? It is, but they did it by talking to people and trying to get an idea of what's, who's getting paid what. Can't be afraid to talk about the money aspect. And it does help, even if you don't put it on your website, it will be good research to know for yourself, I suppose, that, maybe you're undercharging. Maybe there's room to bump up. And, in the back of your mind, you're like, I don't know what everyone else is doing. Ask around. And it doesn't take a lot. You get 2 or 3 attorneys to give you feedback. That'd probably be enough to give you an idea where the market's at. And if there's room, and then it's up to you if you want to put a range. But like I said, I look at these prices, and at the time, this was a couple of years ago this was done. This is what I would say to be competitive, I think. Does that answer the question or?
Yeah, thank you.
No. Target consumers' wants and needs. First one, lawyer selection, committee or individual. And that the reason that is important is if it's a committee, even if it's a committee of three, which could be the chief financial officer, the chief legal counsel, and the owner, that's a little different process than one person. Selection process is your target consumer, which gets back to your desired cases and your target industries. Do they use RFPs, requests for proposals? Do they hire lawyers based on what issues they're facing at the time? Word of mouth. Is it a type of a industry? I mean, I'm familiar a little bit with the construction industry. They talk and they're looking for, hey, we got this problem. Hey, we had that problem last year. Here's the person you want. Call this lady. She can take care of your legal. Is it a word of mouth? And that would require getting into the construction networking groups and showing up and just shaking hands. Practice areas, where they need, every industry has certain things that they just, on a weekly basis, they're looking for people. Any value added functions. What I mean by this is, do they expect the monthly report on what's happening in the industry? Do they expect electronic billing? Do they expect being able to go into someplace on your side and view the status of a case in a private area? Whatever, some people expect this. Technology requirements, again, my client says they have a heavy investment, and that means they got with Verizon and said, give us new phones. But is there a way that you can, if they expect it? Any experience off the top of your head that can distinguish you from other lawyers in this field? You grew up in a family like this. You've actually worked in this business. Any experience that, and they could be, even if a few other lawyers have done this, it's okay. If you're in a small group of a few other lawyers, that's experience that distinguishes. And then any other wants and needs. They want an attorney that's within 100 miles. I do know some companies that want someone which they consider to be a day trip if we need to meet. Or we want an attorney who has people that can argue in front of them, because a lot of things we do get appealed, and we need someone who's got at least someone that they can rely on to help with the appellate process. Any other wants and needs that might be typical?
Yeah, Mike, I think you can be really creative with this, with some of the value added stuff. Like one of my things is my very deep and robust other suppliers network.
Yeah.
So literally I had a client call me already this morning and say, hey, we need an IT person right now. And I already got them lined up with an IT person, and they're meeting shortly. So it's like, and I said, hey, if that one doesn't work out, call the next one. They're both in my network on speed dial, ready to go. And so that's something that's a value add that you can have. You can be someone who knows someone.
Be someone who knows someone. And Dan, that is so, I'm glad you brought that up, because if you're a corporate transactional attorney, what I tell you is, no, you're the client's attorney. No matter what they need, you want them calling you, say, do you know somebody? Because if you vouch for them, and the key word is, if you vouch for them, they're going to take your word that you've worked with them, that I don't know about vetted them, but vetted them to the point where you're not going to refer someone that's going to do a lousy job. So try not to think of it as, I'm just their business or tax attorney. I'm their attorney. That's what you want to be. Even if they have other attorneys, you want to move in. You want to take that crown. we're gonna start getting into a little more bolder speak here as we move. Did you put a note before we get into this one here? Take a little break or?
Yeah, what do you think? Is this a good time to take a break or should we go a little bit further?
I'd go for a 10-minute little break. Everybody want to refill your coffee or, cause now we're gonna start getting into some more of the, now we're gonna get into the heavy stuff of really taking what consumer wants, what you do better, putting them together in the middle. I never realized the analogy of the river, but the middle part is the river. It's but yeah, we're gonna get into some messaging and really being pointed in your delivery. Yeah, it could be called an elevator speech.
Sounds great. We'll boil that down. Let's come back in about 9 minutes. So 10 to the hour. We'll start back. Everybody grab some coffee, stretch, and be right back. Okay, welcome everybody back from the quick break. We're gonna dive back in. Thanks, Mike. Take it away.
Okay. Thank you for excuse me. Okay, now we've talked about what the consumer wants. We've talked about what types of practices, things of that sort. Now we're going to actually get into your unique selling point. And this is the convergence of what the consumer wants, what you do better. I got an example up here, which is a real, this is from one of the projects I worked with a attorney. And here is the epitome of the unique selling point in the middle is your expertise and the things that make you unique and preferred to that target consumer. Like I said, you do a lot of things well, you do a lot of things good, everything, but you know, when someone says, well, why should I hire you? What do you do? What are you good at? And you reply everything, they're moving on. Because it's, and you hear that response all the time. I listen to people, like everything, like, well, okay, yeah. And anymore, I don't even follow up with like, you know, give me 2 or 3 examples. Forget about it. That's the response. So identifying what the consumer wants, which was the previous chart. And actually, now that you see how we're going to use it, many times people will go back and it makes sometimes it'll make a little more sense what to fill in those lines. For example, what a consumer wants. A lawyer that prevents problems, a lawyer who can explain the pros and cons. Oh, I should say, this chart here that we're looking at was done for the lawyer who is going, his ideal type of work is with second stage businesses, entrepreneurs, family owned businesses that started out, grew to the point where they're going to invest maybe $1 million. They want to make sure they do it right and smart and all the rest. So that's what this chart is done for, that type of attorney. A lawyer who can explain the pros and cons of various legal strategies required as the business grows, partnerships, agreements, buy, sell, last man standing, is that it? This is what there's a lawyer who can talk intelligently about all aspects of a client's business. This is very key. And here's where a lot of law firms and lawyers, they pay lip service to this, but they don't really do it because sometimes you don't get paid to learn this stuff. The people I know that have handled clients for a long time, they know their client's business beyond the legal issues. They can anticipate, like right now in the Detroit market, south in Michigan, car dealerships are merging so fast. Almost every week, somebody's buying somebody. As we joke, it's going to come down to the 5 families. And that's going to be the car dealerships in Michigan. Well, as an attorney for one of those dealerships, you need to be going into your clients and saying, all right, I know your business. I know where you're going. Here's just something you need to be aware of, and whatever it is. So they want you to know their business beyond just being able to call you with legal issues. A lawyer who's a deal maker, capable of being an upside thinker rather than one who's constantly focused on a downside. again, this target consumer, that's what they want. They don't want the anchor on the fun ship. They want someone who, okay, even if you got to think about it, it's all right, there's some upside here, we can do it. Creative thinking lawyer says you can do that, but you just can't do it that way, instead of you can't do that. And most importantly, a lawyer they trust and feel comfortable with and trust. Okay, so that's what the consumer wants. Let's jump over to the right side column. What attributes did this person, did we whittle down? Like I said, many things they do very well. But here's what's going to address those consumer wants: the experience. And this is word of mouth out of this attorney's mouth. I provided legal counsel for many closely held businesses, can anticipate their needs, quickly provide value. Big picture, get to know the client's business, provide legal counsel across all aspects. Employment law. Even though he's not an expert, he knows enough, and he says, hey, if you need help, I know an employment lawyer. But in the big picture, it's like, hey, you really should run that by an attorney type of advice. Creative approaches. I understand the mindset of an interpreter, entrepreneur. And again, once they get in their mind, if something's going to happen, it's going to happen. You just want to make sure it's done the best way and protect them. Firsthand knowledge, my experience working with clients in various industries gives me a broader, deeper understanding of the legal needs of a second stage business. And this is a very key point to address the consumer wants, because again, they want to know their business is going to be in good hands, and about businesses like ours, where here the attorney is saying, like, I've worked with so many different businesses, I know there's similarities, I know what I'm doing. So the unique selling point that was drafted for this person, and he's got more experience handling legal matters for closely held businesses than the collective experience found at some of the law firms he competes with. The breadth and depth of his experience across many industries allow me to quickly identify legal strategies for every situation and provide valuable business insight for all aspects of a client's business. That's the overall positioning, what we call a positioning statement, brand positioning statement, unique selling point. Kind of wraps in. He's got experience. The consumer is looking for experience. Closely held businesses, the consumer is looking for that. The breadth and depth across many industries, that will be a benefit to consumer because he's seen deals happen and he can spin that into many ways. And identify legal strategies and provide valuable business insight. The target consumer that he's going for wants an attorney that is going to know his business. Doesn't have to know everything about it, but enough that if he's talking about something in a certain area of business, that he wants the attorney to be able to at least understand. So you've got your sheets in front of you. Now this is one that you may want to research or think about, but your consumer wants, now some of these consumer wants, they will apply to other practice areas. Like I said, this was a corporate transactional business attorney, but what we listed here for the consumer wants, a lawyer that prevents problems. Well, yes, of course, that is. But at the same time, the word prevent means taking proactive approach and coming in with an experience saying, look, it's my experience, you don't have to worry about, or it's my experience that down the road, I'm going to just keep an eye on this for you, and we'll keep an eye. So, and then when you go over to what you do better versus competition, 3 or 4. If you put a gigantic laundry list there, there's going to be too much that anyone's going to be able to comprehend, and it'll be too much to be able to wrap into a unique selling point, which it's a sophisticated elevator speech, but it does hit the points. That's what's called a branding positioning statement. Different than a vision, a little bit different, because this is for a specific type of consumer. If you have any questions, feel free to certainly raise your questions now, or if you have a certain consumer that you're looking for, and maybe what types of things would that be in that consumer's mind? Certainly open for discussion.
Yeah, I like this mic, like you're really able to like narrow stuff down, and like you said, we could do a million things and somebody's eyes are gonna just glaze over, and they're not gonna move forward. So I learned a long time from a very wise makeup salesperson. She said if you show someone a tray of eyeshadows, they will do nothing. If you go back and say, oh, with your eyes, I think these 3 eyeshadows would be a good choice for you, then they're likely to buy 2 or 3 of your eyeshadows. So the confused mind does nothing.
Does
So
nothing.
putting yourself in the mind of your consumer and speaking their language. I
Yes.
could start throwing out Latin words all day long, and that's not the language of my.
No, it's not the language, and you really got to narrow it down to 2 or 3 points that can be remembered and you can be known for, and then you can wrap into a selling point like this. I give you an analogy. Years ago, my client was Iams Pet Food, the big pet food maker. And I was actually working on a project when they introduced the line Eukanuba, which is for high performance animals. And, the easy part was assigning colors to, if you have a hunting dog, it's this, if you have a racing, whatever. But the tough part was because there was so much technical information, and your consumer was actually a label reader and they understood all this technical information, but boiling it down to, okay, what does this mean? And we came down to the fact that nobody really pays attention to the ingredients like we do, speaking for Iams. And we only use, it's like, nobody pays attention like we do. We only use at the time they were shifting to natural organic ingredients. And the other point was, we know this works, and it's the high performance dogs and cats, they need this nutrition. So really beyond all, because they knew their consumer was going to go look for all that other information, and they didn't want to get tied up. It's how do you get the hook out there? How do you grab them? What keywords are they looking for to hear from you? Experience is a big keyword. One of the bragging points this attorney made is, I bring more experience than the collective experience of the entire firm that you might be looking at. I know more than them. Didn't say it with those words, but that's the message that was planted. Breadth and depth of my experience across many industries. Another way to say this, we'll get into later, is look, there's nothing I haven't seen or done. When it comes to this topic, again, being very narrow, nothing. At the breadth and depth of my experience across industries. That's what he's saying is, you can have confidence. You got a problem, I got an answer. I will come up with a answer. So, and again, these are the types of things where you might begin to think about, but keep it concise, do the left and right columns, and then do the left column. What does the consumer want first? Because then out of all the things you do and offer, you can get the most powerful ones in that right column. Any questions?
Yeah, so Ernest, do you have a comment? I saw you pop back on video.
No.
No? Okay, cool. This also reminds me of people who come up with like the world's best widget, but like nobody needs that widget. Like this is a great thing, but it's either ahead of its time or maybe just a novelty. And so it's coming out at the wrong time. No one needs additional widgets or dust collectors during a time of a recession or something like that. They need
happens every day. A big example of that is the guy that invented those stand-up scooter things. His idea was, oh my God, in cities that are heavily populated, these are going to go everywhere. Well, no, that's what you have bicycles for. They are all over airports now. And you see security people zipping through airports on those, I forget the name, but his target consumer was different than he thought at the time. It was a great widget. It just needed to be focused and channeled to the right spot. And what the right spot is, you know, even shopping malls, you know, it's really a security enhancer when, but that was a case study. All right, that actually was, so we get, that is the end of the first step. The first step is very big. So now we get into step 2 is reaching. With the reach, okay, we just got done with the big unique selling points. That's a bit of, you know, paragraph, 2 paragraphs. Now we're going to boil that down, your consumer value proposition. This is what you're going to shout from a mountain, and keep in mind, you can't shout anything very long from a mountain. You just can't. Is the CVP, consumer value proposition. There's some examples in the lower section. And these are sometimes bait opening lines that will grab someone's attention, and they'll say, oh, okay, well, now tell, you know, wow, tell me more. And then you could launch into your bigger paragraph, consumer value proposition, or the your value statement. But I measure success by one thing: results. Nothing else matters. We don't just respond to your legal needs, we anticipate them. Business specialist lawyer you need when you're investing and growing your business. I'm the one you need. That, what you're trying to do is trigger a follow-up. Oh, really? Why do you say that? Well, that the door is now open for you to launch into your other things that are going to grab them. There is no substitute for experience. This is a line that I suggest, you know, if some people get nervous about the word boutique, it's like, look, we have like the what we just saw. All right, you can call me a boutique, but I'll tell you right now, I got more experience in this subject than everyone put together over at blah, blah, blah firm. There's just no substitute. I've lived it. I've walked the walk. I've been in the courtroom. There's nothing I haven't seen. Another's consumer value proposition. Again, these are short one-liners that, or 2-line. Creative thinker knows how to solve problems when there is no we've done that before precedent. The law is constantly changing. Rules and regulations, judges' opinions, they trend one way, they trend another way. Court proceedings, the results come out, and the interpretation of laws constantly changing. Like there's no we've done that before precedent. I can help you navigate through any situation you want. So this is your value statement that it could be a tag under your signature line of your email. It could go on the footer of your stationery. It could go on the header of your stationery. This is the type of thing. You can call it a tagline, marketing tagline, if you will, but it's this is your boast. This is your boasting statement that, again, you want to have this in your pocket to solicit. Okay, tell me more, and then you go in. Any thoughts? Any ideas? You got some good ones? Nobody better? All we do is win. I still don't know how they get away with that, but I mean, I know lawyers that say we would 99% of our cases are we win, but all we do is win.
Yeah, I mean, those lawyers don't take cases that they can't win.
No, they don't. Yeah, they get out of them real quick if they see something not happening. But and feel free, if one of these examples fits what you're doing. I mean, I don't own the copyright of any of these. Feel free. If they would work for your target audience and the attributes that you can bring to the table, reword them again, and we're in the age of AI, and um, so
Yeah.
there it is.
Prompt for good taglines using these attributes or these, yes.
Yeah, it is, and now you'll see other firms. In fact, the chart we did with the competitive chart, we had listed what do they brag about, what are their taglines, whatever. It's a very quick one, but this is your consumer value proposition. Again, it's a quick hit. The whole point of this is to get someone to say, really, how do you do that? Boom, and then that opens the door. You could talk. And just below that, the annual marketing budget, what I suggest, monthly, annually, rule of thumb, 3 to 5% of gross, but everybody knows their own budget. But definitely put some kind of number in there, because that will help you with the next charts coming up of selecting media and platforms and things like that. If you have a monthly, and whatever it is, it doesn't matter, but put a number in there.
Yeah, I have a question about that, Mike, because I work with a lot of people who are like brand new startups and they're
Mhm.
trying to do a budget. So they can't base it on their revenue yet because there's only projected revenue. And I also see people get razzle dazzled and very much overspend on marketing. I think it's one of the key areas a small
They're
firm
out there.
can overspend
Yeah.
on.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I know the people that pitch though, yeah.
Yeah. So like, what do you think would be another good way to handle that?
Well, there's two ways to look at this. One is a budget to objective,
Mhm.
which is, okay, what's our objective? If they're startups, right now, their objective is awareness. And again, it gets back to that 3 and 7 numbers I talked about earlier. What is it going to take to get your name out there enough to get people talking? And to that point, what I would do is say, okay, look, here's the base. Number one, invest in your time. Get on your LinkedIn's, what have you, this net. Number two, get something that you can hand to people. And I know everybody kind of says, oh my God, get a decent plastic pen with your name. Everybody laughs at them, but how many times we got them rolling all over? Yeah, you got yours. Go on to Vistaprint or whoever does the pens, your name and either your phone number or your website, get them out there. And then thirdly, I would say check into, because the annual marketing budget to grow a business, it's my experience, is you want to get out there and meet people. So what's it going to cost to join a few associations? If it's a chamber, if it's a specific industry group, state bar, which actually, I mean, there are certain fixed costs, your state bar, what have you. But, and I understand what you're saying. We can't do a percentage because we don't know what the sales are going to be. But at the same time, and I would toss out a number of $500 a month. And what's that going to cover? That could get you an ad on LinkedIn. That can get you a small, sometimes you can get a quarter-page ad in a state bar magazine. You can certainly get one in that you can use to host a evening, depending what your practice area is, to host something at your local community center and invite people in, or do what's called a lunch and learn and go to prospective clients and cater in, some Subway sandwiches or whatever. But yeah, whatever they feel comfortable, but I would say, 500, 100 a week would be a good absolute base. And also that something, I'm not a big fan of Facebook for legal advertising. However, I also know that Facebook reaches millions.
Mhm.
And I look at the legal world as mass market versus very specialized. Mass market being your estate planning people, and estate planning is probably the most one because everybody can use it. You got people from all walks of life. Pretty much they're all on Facebook. you spend $80 and I tell people go Tuesday through Sunday or whatever, you're going to reach so many people and get that awareness. Down the road, it's going to pay off because that's going to start building your 3 and 7 exposures. But yeah, that was it. And really what you're talking about, another way we look at it, we call it opportunity marketing. So keep your eyes open. If you don't have a budget or not able to do a budget, just keep your eyes open because like I said, there's people out there selling everything under the sun. Just, I don't mean to sidetrack here, but this whole SEO marketing approach, I've yet to have an SEO salesman explain to me, okay, how do you, like, you're telling me everything you can achieve. How do we monitor? How do we measure? Oh, well, because it's very technical to really actually measure this stuff, very technical. They don't want to get into that because they can't explain it. And if they did, I'd be sitting there looking at them going, well, I can do that. So it's a lot of it is, and the amount of money people are paying for SEO services is, some works, some doesn't. But anyway, that's the type of thing you got to be cautious. The word due diligence comes into play. As I tell anybody, I can get you #1 on Google for 20 minutes. I've done it. I've sat in a client's office and they challenged them and I can post something, I can get it up there. The minute somebody in San Diego posts something on the same topic, we get bumped. The minute somebody in Kansas City posts on the same topic, we get bumped. But for 20 minutes. So if you got a special thing. Another thing people don't always think, if they go do speaking engagements, there is a way, they call it fencing. You can drop messages just into that geography of a conference hall or a really defined area like a hotel district of a city and just really drop message. So the only people getting that message are the people that you want, save a little bit of money. There's all kinds of ways to extremely target and save some money and do things. So but it is, I think it's important to have a budget, even if you don't spend it, or if you're not able to spend it in your mind, it'll help you to, and sometimes it's just good to have, so you have a reason to say no to some things. Somebody say, oh, you need to do this. Can't, not yet. We're working there, but not yet. And there's nothing wrong with that. So now we'll move into, and a budget directly will help with message delivery tactics. We got our brand messages. We know what the consumer wants. We talked about what is going on in the prospective consumer's head. So how are we going to reach them? Well, here is a laundry list of tactics. I call them tactics, strategies that can be used. Print advertisements. Pick and choose and check a few boxes. I can give you an idea. The print advertisement TV obviously is going to cost a little bit more than really getting a fancy, well, no, actually to get a nice fancy website nowadays is not cheap. So depending on what you want to do, QR codes are becoming a very, very functional thing now that the wireless phones, you just point and click your camera. Used to be you had to have a software on your camera to do whatever. Now you just point and click and up it comes. Billboards, I know people think they're hokey, but what's happening is a lot of these electronic billboards, which are in pretty good, highly trafficked areas, have 8 segments per minute. And each segment would be, what would it be, 4 or 5 seconds. And they're going for some pretty good packages. If you want to just get your name and website, name and phone number, sometimes billboards, if you get it in the right spot, is worth getting the awareness. Search engine optimization, that depends on the practice area. And there's a way with search engines, you can analyze seasonality. And I know with, I go back to the estate planning attorney, there is a seasonality to it. And estate planning searches on Google go way up the week before and the week after a holiday where families get together. Easter, July 4th, Memorial Day, Labor Day, Christmas, Thanksgiving. You can see the spikes, and they're significant spikes. So I tell people, okay, if you're gonna do search engine optimization, you can take these months off. You can take January off because nobody's looking. Get back in there wherever Easter falls, get back in and have them do some things right before the holidays, because you think about it, well, people are calling, hey, we're getting together. And in conversation, you know, is dad doing okay? Last time I saw him, all the paperwork was in order. When's the last time anyone talked to the attorney? It just the spikes go through the roof. Literally, you can do a search engine optimization campaign 6 months on, 6 months off, depending on the seasonality of your Google searches for the words that you describe your practice. You don't have to go. A lot of people are going to come in, give you the sales pitch. Well, you know, all year long you do this and it builds this. No, you want to be there when the fish are biting. Press releases are a quick way, and they're still, what I found is press releases work really hard with your local legal industry newspapers. Detroit Legal, and I just use the ones in my Detroit Legal News, Michigan State Lawyers Weekly. There are these people, Law 365. They all grab them and they publish them. They're constant, and it's I know people say, well, it's a free way. Nothing's free, but it is a very impactful way to get that steady stream of your name in front of people, and generally associated with something good. Blogs, well, if you got the time, they're powerful. Same with podcasts. Very powerful. You got the time. The eBlast, I recommend you sign up for, and again, this gets into the budget of a startup, 30, 50, 75 a month. You got Constant Contact, you got MailChimp, you got a few of these services. Whatever one is going to be the best for you, you invest the 45, 30, 40, 50 bucks a month, and start to build your contacts. And yeah, I would say once a month, once every 6 weeks, more is better. But if that's what you can do, social media, that again, LinkedIn, in my opinion, is the controlling partner right now. But there are some other ones, especially in your practice jurisdiction that you're operating in. State bars have things you can join in. Certain magazines. There's actually Crane's Detroit Business, and I think other cities have the Crane's publication. For 50 bucks, they will send out a Twitter under their name. It goes to millions. You get your voice is turned off.
Yes. What was that again? I'd love to follow.
Oh, yeah. Crane's
Cranes.
Publishing. Crane's, I know they're in Detroit, they're in Chicago. CRAINS. They are a heavy business magazine. And for 50 bucks, they will send, or I call it Twitter, X. They'll send out a X message under their banner. Huh. And they have millions of followers. And it is something that on occasion, when some of the clients I work with, maybe they hire a couple of new attorneys that have really good backgrounds that need to be known, or I mean, I don't know, nobody steals anybody, but maybe they steal an attorney and a practice group from another firm. In fact, we did a big shakeup here with one of the old blue blood, I call them Redwood and Ross, button jackets, a whole division walked away. Went to another firm that was announced through the Crane. That's worth 50 bucks. So there are little hidden gems in the social media that are tied in with the publishers. Newsletters,
I'll put in a quick plug real quick. We are doing a special lawyers happy hour the first Thursday of October on Twitter/X. How to monopolize that, because it seems like it came and went, but it did not come and go. It is definitely something to capitalize on for marketing your practice.
it is, and it kind of, as I say, it kind of faded for a while because nobody really knew what was going on, this and that, but nobody gave up their accounts. All the accounts are there. Nobody unfollowed anybody. It's just not as buzz. It's just buzzing. Now it's starting to buzz again like it was. But oh yeah, it's there. Newsletters. Again, I think newsletters are good for some practices. They're not good for other practices, mainly because, for example, a corporate transactional attorney doesn't get their information from a newsletter. Whereas a estate planner will send out a newsletter and it'll be read by, if they focus on elder law, it's going to people that are going to read it and actually contact them and say, maybe I should take a look at my plan. I haven't in a couple of years. My suggestion is I'm still a fan of the old school print, put a stamp on it. I know people say that's costly, what have you. Why can't I just email it out? Well, one of the reasons that I say, especially with a newsletter, is we all get our email boxes just loaded. I mean, it'll take me half a cup of coffee to delete every day. And so, whereas getting something in the mail, even though everybody gets junk mail, this and that, properly done with your logo, when somebody gets something from a lawyer that they know and that they know handles their business, they're going to open it. And it can be as simple as, here's what's coming. Here's maybe a brief success story and a brief, even if it says nothing's changed in Michigan since last year, you're in good hands. Give me a call if you want to find out more. Brochures, a lot of people forget about these, but I think I still get asked for them. A simple brochure. My suggestion is, boy, make the look and feel of a brochure, I think, is very important. Anywhere from the shiny, crisp, polished paper to, I forget what law firm here in Detroit's doing it on birch bark. And it's a very cool texture and it's one-sided. And it holds up. And they invested in it, but it definitely distinguishes them from the rest. Published articles, boy, if you can get 1 or 2 out a year, that is a big thing. I know it takes time, and sometimes the people I work with, they're always afraid it's not long enough. I've seen one-pagers get a lot of attention. And I know someone else who writes for Bloomberg and writes white papers, and they get a lot of attention. It has to do with the content. What is it that you're saying? If a publisher's taking it, it actually means something to somebody, because these publishers, they just don't run everything that they get. It's different. Articles are different than press releases, of course, but publishing articles is a way to become a category authority, and it helps, and it works together with your blog and your podcast and your YouTubes, and that in itself will elevate your search engine presence because when you publish an article, they're putting it online as well, your name, what have you. Seminars, webinars, boy, if you can get in front of people, follow up with just a brief thank you for attending, here's what else I do, and maybe in between. Yeah, I had the good fortune of settling a client case, and they were all happy and everybody's happy. But again, get that name out there and find out more, give me a call or contact. Business network events, some of these you have to pay for, some you don't. But definitely worth going, shaking hands, meeting people. You never know where that lead's going to come from. I know I worked with one attorney that said she didn't want to waste 5 minutes to figure out if someone needed her or not. It's okay. We didn't even talk for 5 minutes. I can just put it that way. because I didn't need her. But I mean, my opinion is you got to be in the water before the surf comes in. And to that respect, one day a week or even twice a month. I know my local Chamber of Commerce has coffee sessions every Tuesday. I make a point at least once a month of going to them. And I have met some people that have referred me to somebody that referred me to business. And there's other networks and business events that the state bars have their organization, and even if it's an industry. Speaking engagements, we kind of went over that one. So, and then there might be some other ones. We'll check the boxes, insert the tactics that you think would work for your practice area, depending on who the target audience is. Then underneath that, materials, you have them or you need them. Brochures, maybe you have them. Okay, got that. Press releases, well, we need those, and so we're going to work on that. But you have or need, if you can pick 6, if you can pick more. And again, Dan, this is kind of where this could be budget driven. For new businesses, maybe they focus on going to network events and, posting on the website, keeping a news and, what's news, publishing out some of these things, which are the lower cost, building to the point where they can get some of the higher cost, things in order. Any questions here? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I think the key is, and like you said, like take a few tactics, start small, take a few
Start
things that
small.
you really want to hone into, like maybe 3 things, try those for 90 days at least,
Yep.
get some traction, and then also that balance of the sweat equity and then the paid services.
And the paid services, yeah. And I just want to tie this all back together. When you're sending these out, you want to weave in the messages that you described in your consumer value proposition and to be consistent on these. Even with press releases, I always end a press release, about whatever, about the firm. And it is a base, short, 2-3 sentences. I give an example. One of them, founded in 1876 by a returning Civil War hero. This firm is the oldest IP law firm in Michigan. General Motors was founded in their lobby. And then they talk about things. That's a consistent message that they, I'm trying to get them away from that, because I tell them, look, nowadays everybody hears that and they're like, well, yeah, but do they know how to GPS a car into a garage? Which they do, of course, but anyway, it's consistent. Whatever it is, it's consistent. Yeah. Okay, any other questions here? And okay. So once you have your picks and you select how you're going to get your messages out there, and there's some other platforms here. Like I said, I listed ones that are quite common, but there's other ones. Now, simply take the 6 and list them. And again, this is part of the plan, that if it's not written, it's not a plan. Because the previous page had boxes that were checking all over the place, and it's got, do I have it? Do I need it? This and that. If you look at it, and as I tell people, you squint your eyes and it's a nice field of flowers. This is going to really get things in order. Here are the tactics to launch the campaign. 1, 2, 3. If you got 6, here's what we're doing. We're going to do the website updates at least once a month in our news section. We're going to post on social media. Whatever your tactics are, you write them down. And then the next step is implement the plan. And that gets you into the reach stage of the branding process. You got your message, you have your point of differences, your unique and preferred attributes are established. Okay, let's get this message out into the visibility stage, and that's what this reach does. Step 3, connect. Here is where we're actually going to list names, groups, companies you need to connect with. Boy, if you can name 3 of them, that's great. If you can name 5 people you need to connect with. Think of people that you know can be good referral sources for you. They just maybe don't know exactly what you do. They know you're an attorney. They know you're with, a certain firm, or maybe were with a firm, but boy, they just don't, yeah, I don't know, he's an attorney. Well, we're going to reach out to them, or companies that you can have target companies. There is a big one here in the Detroit market, Rocket Mortgages, which is part of the Quicken Loans. Anyway, they actually are open to solo practitioners and, the word boutique people coming in, because they can walk across the street to the huge national law firms. But a lot of things they do, they don't want anyone knowing about. They don't want, was it, I don't know, maybe 10 years ago, they literally brought in somebody and said, we need to cut the process of applying for a mortgage in half the time. And they had an attorney working with some IT people. They didn't want anybody knowing they're doing it, so they brought in a small firm to do it. That could be a company, it could be a big company, it could be a small company. Listen, these are people maybe you don't know them, but we're going to find out and work your way in. Your current connections, people that do know what you do, but you want to just keep them up to date with your stream of press releases and social media. Make sure they're on your social media, and one way to do that is to go follow them, or go associate yourself with them. They will reciprocate and associate your current connections. You can write these down. Finally, any industry business associations you need. Again, you got chambers, you have community groups. There are certain community groups that are very good. Right now, I know, at least in my market, pickleball organizations are becoming huge. And what's interesting is it's becoming the golf course. And I'm just going to kind of paint a picture. It used to be like the clubhouse of a good golf course is where, the men had their clubhouse, the ladies had their. Well, this pickleball stuff is separating itself and attracting that type of a customer. It's not terribly exhausting. And when you're done, you have a cocktail. And there is a lot of, anyway, and I'm just using that to try and open your minds to it. Doesn't just have to be business. It can be some fun. But if it's a proper collection of people, and don't be afraid when they're going to ask, what do you do? Don't be afraid to not only let them know what you do, but why you're the one to call. It is definitely something. So, but yeah, the whole pickleball thing is.
It is quite the rage.
It is the rage. Yeah.
I haven't tried it yet, but several of my friends who've kind of, I don't want to say this exactly, but they're not optimum at their tennis game anymore. They've decided to go pickleball.
They're going pickleball. And and they have that, and it's becoming, some of these organizations that have their monthly get together networking events are doing it at pickleball, tennis court type things, and just setting up a tent with your cocktails on. So, but anyway, here, industry business associations you need to connect with. 1, 2, 3. I mean, if you're at 4, definitely your number 1 and 2, join them, and go shake hands. And like when the one client, the Air Force pilot that was nervous about going and telling people what he did, talk about something that if you like pickleball. Locally, hey, how about them New Orleans Saints? How about, of course, in Detroit here, you just bring up the Detroit Lions and they're like, oh my God, for years we suffered. It's a common, you can get your common ground and with these places. And actually, some of the best referral sources that I have met at associations started out with what could be considered irrelevant conversation. About a month ago, actually, I met a lady from Colombia who is now working for one of the tier 1 auto suppliers in international recruitment of technical employees. Well, my question was, what do you think about the coffee here? She's from Colombia. We ended up talking for a half hour, and that led to, what do you do and what do you think? And well, she is actually, her department is weaved into the legal department and what have you. So, but it was, and I just blurted out. Maybe I didn't even realize I was doing it, but it was a human interest. I like coffee, obviously, if you're from Colombia. And of course, she launched right into, oh my God, I've yet to find anything good, blah, blah, blah. And, but it was a connection was made. People hiring people. And so when you go to these things, don't worry about putting on the hardcore sales pitch. Be yourself, make a connection. It will lead to some good conversation. Step 4, engaging. And this engaging is really, boy, the rubber meets the road. This is meeting face to face, getting somebody on an email thread, X Twitter thread, what have you. Why prospective clients need you. Be specific. Do not use the vague terminology of that any law firm or lawyer law firm could state. You will use these reasons to engage your prospects. Here are a few examples. And it answers the question, you should, or it makes a statement, you should hire me to handle your legal work because, number 1, I know legal issues you're currently facing and will be facing soon. Number 2, my experience working with businesses across industries help you sort through all your. Number 3, I know how to protect your interests, both business and personal. These are the types of things you're going to say to somebody and they'll just stare at them, and hopefully that triggers the, oh, really? No kidding. Hey, I'd like to find out more. Or, oh, wow, when's that, sounds like you deal with businesses that are pretty close to people's families and you really need to be separated. And that just gives you permission to say, yeah, actually, I work with a family that owns, and I was telling Dea, it's the car dealership business, many of his family, they all got, it's a big family business legacy, and separating their family as much as they can while still maintaining every advantage that's available. Sometimes you're walking a line and you really need an experienced attorney to help you walk that line. I can protect your interests, this and that. So these are three examples. I suggest you need one, but if you can come up with a couple other ones, and these kind of spill out from your value proposition and your consumer value statements, your unique selling proposition, they're all consistent. And they all lead to when somebody says, no kidding, wow, tell me why, what about that? Just launch right in, well, the last case I worked on, whatever it was that you did. Actually, I had a attorney tell me who worked with homeowner associations, that was their target in the Las Vegas area. And they were at a big conference in Las Vegas, which a lot of conferences there. Well, talking to somebody from Baltimore who was dealing with homeowner associations, but wasn't terribly familiar. And he asked, what type of work you do? He goes, I've handled HOA cases in every county in Nevada. Oh, no kidding. I need some help in Baltimore. They're now working together on and sending each other cases back and forth. One thing led to another. They talked, and but that opened the door. Very specific. The Homeowner Association attorney in Nevada does other things. he's a real estate attorney that just specializes in HOA, which is a very specific area of law. So you should hire me to handle your legal work, maybe you have one very focused and you have one just slightly broader, but you need an answer to that question statement. And now that you've got your consumer mindset and everything, you are ready to convert, and always be ready to close that deal. Like I said, when someone says, what do you need? Tell them. I'm going to email. I just need your email because I'm going to send you, again, 24-hour rule. I'm going to send you the papers, you fill them out, and we're going to run the conflict check. Everything works out good. Generally speaking, we need anywhere from 1,000 to 15 retainer, whatever the numbers are. And off we go. And then, I'm going to come see you. We can do a Zoom, we can do a phone call, find out a little more details about you. But when you're ready, someone gives you, you're ready to convert, and you've got everything that you need. So any questions there? No? Okay. This information, you definitely need to add this branding into your personalized business development plan. Dea, you can chip in here.
Yeah, I should make sure my code worked earlier, but I'm gonna check it now.
I'm pretty sure it does.
Check it. Yeah, so because it's open in a Google Drive, just so you know, it's not taking you anywhere crazy. Oh, let's see. It's got more than that, but okay. Anyway, so there is a business development plan in this, along with some other worksheets, which is totally fine. So this isn't the only program that I put on. So we have, I have some worksheets from some other programs. So it's a bonus. You get a lot of extra materials, even though in this slide we were mentioning your business development plan. So branding, as we mentioned, is just part of your overall business plan. So coming up with Mike did cover a good bit of this, but like networking, doing speaking, doing white papers, and you're going to want to individualize that as much as possible. If you're someone who's like very technical, not as well into being at social events and things like that, you can develop a plan that's more focusing on the articles and focusing on the white papers. Or conversely, if you're someone who likes to speak, then absolutely finding strategic areas to speak, being on webinars, being on podcasts, and putting that as a high level item in your business development plan. And then also really just keying in on who your audience is. So if you're out pitching to if you're fishing in the wrong pond all of the time, then you're going to get burnout and frustrated and not be able to run your business very, very well. So I just wanted to share these materials with you now, and you can look at them as we proceed. And here are some highlighted snapshots of, again, it's very similar to what Mike just shared, just kind of maybe in a little bit more right-brained consistency thing. We've got a little cloud. We got a little word cloud going on here where Mike gave you a nice table. But definitely being genuine and authentic, sort of that uniqueness. There are a lot of people who do what we do, but we do it differently. Someone who does say someone is in estate planning, the nuts and bolts of estate planning is going to be pretty similar, depending upon your state rules, and the techniques the techniques are going to be very similar, but the way someone approaches it and the customer service and the focus of their practice is going to be their own unique and genuine and authentic. Finding common ground. I know you mentioned the coffee analogy. That's great. The sports analogy is good. I always try to brush up a little bit on sports. It's a running joke in my industry that I don't know anything about sports. I do often try to use sports analogies, and that's just even funnier than the fact that I don't know anything about sports. However, if I am landing in a city and there's a game going on that day, I do try to know it. So
Who's
just
playing?
I like to know who's playing, who's favored, who's the local team. A 30-second, I asked ChatGPT, it's like a 30-second, like, hey, what's going on in Detroit today? And they said they bring up sports. I'm like, okay, who's the favorite team? What's going on, just so I know. And because that is often nationwide an icebreaker for small groups.
Oh, I
So-
mean, I don't mean to interrupt you, Dave, but sports is gigantic. And now I know in Michigan, they have girls flag football as a varsity sport in high school.
Okay.
I have not seen an energy go toward a high school, even football, meant boys. This
Yeah.
girls is getting thousands of people in the stands because number one, the athletes are out there in this. So what high school guy doesn't want to go to the stands to see the girls play? And the NFL is sponsoring this, so they all got really nice uniforms and all. And
Nice.
all the coaches are former Division I or NFL players. The whole thing, the whole sports thing is just, it's huge, and it is a very common ground. But I would also, the provide value and common ground is, like I was giving that coffee example. Lady says she's from Columbia. I was like, oh my God, I got great coffee there. That's what I was thinking. But what I said is, hey, have you found anything? That just, there's a bit of a common there. And in a very subtle way, it's like, hey, you're one of us. Boy, wow, finally someone up here in North America understands your coffee's terrible. But it's not hard. And at the same time being genuine. I mean, all these words are very important.
Yeah.
Very important.
Definitely. And of course, I'm a big proponent of groups. I run several groups. Most of you got invited today through one of the groups that I run. Starting a group, if there's not one, can be very, very key and pivotal. And let me know, reach out after the call if you want to know about how to start a group and get it going so that you're not investing too much time to get it off the ground, to go ahead and do that. So something I'm very happy to help people with. All right. And also, okay, so LinkedIn, I use a lot. Mike has mentioned it several times. So there is a follow button that you can click on people's profiles. So I follow people like me, and then I follow my target ideal client. And I try to stay up on when they post something that I get in there and comment on the post or share the post. And then I also use a gift card service. So I'll get people's information. So sometimes when I do these Zoom social events and networking groups, I'll do some trivia questions, and then the person who gets the trivia questions right can automatically get sent a little gift in the mail. And so that's like that's a little top of mind kind of branding thing to stay. And then when someone likes something, I can do something very personalized. So the gift service is just like, brownies and cookies and popcorn and things like that. But if someone were to mention to me, like I was on a call yesterday with someone, and they mentioned that they're going to refer me someone, and I happen to know what kind of wine they like because they mentioned it in the call, I make a little note. So if it moves on to business, or if it moves on to a really good connection, then a couple weeks from now they'll get a bottle of wine or a gift card for the bottle of wine that they like in the mail, and that really does go a long way. And I think we're all connected on LinkedIn. I'll just leave this up for like 10 seconds. So you mentioned QR codes. QR codes are invaluable. Like, you must have QR codes. If you have a paper card still, definitely have a QR code on that. On all your presentations, have a QR code. There's even something called, if you do a lot of speaking, I found something called Talkadot, which is a QR code that actually lets them give you feedback on your presentation. And also like refer you, and then they can opt in or out of your newsletter. So some of these great new tech tools are going to really revolutionize that. And then you can plug it in, of course, to your CRM system, and CRM can be a whole nother half day talk. So, all right. So back to you, Mike.
Okay, speaking of technology, okay, so we've gone through the process. We started to fill in some blanks. Hopefully you've got your own personal branding project began. I know there's still maybe some things you might want to look at, and for example, going to, even if you took one competitor and just go and really look at what they're saying on their website, That'll give you an idea what they think is unique about them, as well as you getting into your own target consumer. And but I just can't stress enough, get into that niche of being unique as best you can. And you'll be surprised at the opportunities that flow out of it. Actually, I mean, just one last one. I'm working with an attorney who has developed something called a practice area called urban revitalization. And he's working to promote that. How that came about was, there's a lot of, Detroit has a lot of investment properties. There's just like 5-6 unit little apartment buildings nestled in the city that are abandoned, whatever, and they're selling them. He gets a phone call from a guy in Ireland. Well, a guy in Ireland with 3 other guys has a couple million. They heard Detroit's a good place to invest. They hire him to help him navigate Detroit, find some buildings. What he's a real estate attorney, but he also has tax attorneys, this and that. So he said, well, we got all these people and we're working together on a daily basis. We need to call this something. So they established urban revitalization, very targeted. We are the ones to call if you want to know about investment properties. And now it's not just Detroit. He's got a group in Chicago that does it. And they're looking to get groups in other cities. So as you target, you'll start to see there are some niches that maybe you can break some ground and really become unique, saying we're your one stop, which is what they're promoting. And so anyway, any other final questions? If not, I will certainly open it to, if you have any questions or need to know anything further, contact me. Send me a note. We can schedule a phone call or a Zoom. Dea, I get the feeling you know these people and
Absolutely. I do. And we have the other people also who registered who will get the copy, and then it will be housed on my YouTube page for as long as we want it to be there, which I think is in infinitum. But yeah, so anybody have any questions right now before we conclude? This is the conclusion of the official presentation. But if you do have any questions that you'd like to ask now, that would be great. And then of course we will be following up with you as well.
Yeah, follow up. And like I said, I'm certainly putting it out there. You want to just talk about, hey, what would be a good value statement for me, or run something by, hey, here's what I'm thinking, any wordsmithing, send it over. It's all part of this webinar, and that's no problem.
Wonderful. Thank you all for your comments. Those are very nice and sweet. And we do enjoy your being here. Again, this was a presentation that Mike does usually put on for paid, as a paid speaker, paid workshop, and as a gift to our Lawyers Happy Hour group, and also co-sponsored by myself with the Success Partner. We were able to bring this to you for free as a value of our membership. So stay tuned for future events. And yeah, happy lawyering.
Nice to meet everybody. Take care. Yep. Okay.